Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jen, and today we're going to talk about how my body responds to the tilt table test. A tilt table test is also called upright tilt testing, and it's used to diagnose things like dysautonomia or syncope. A tilt table test uses a fancy table in an office, but other than that, there isn't really anything special about it. The table automatically lifts you up to a standing position, usually slightly less than standing, just for balance or something. When people say a poor man's tilt table test, what they're talking about is not spending the hundreds of dollars to go in and use the fancy table. You just lay down on the bed and then stand up when it's time. The downside to this is that it's supposed to be a passive stand, which you can only do with the table, but you can stand up pretty passively even if you're doing just the poor man's test. In my case, depending on the day, my body either responds with POTS or with orthostatic hypotension. POTS, which stands for Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia syndrome, is my form of dysautonomia. POTS is diagnosed when your heart rate increases by over 30 beats per minute when you change positions from laying down to standing up. Orthostatic hypotension is sort of the opposite, where when you go from laying to standing, your blood pressure drops rather than your heart rate increasing. Now, normally when your blood pressure drops, your heart rate does also increase in order to try to compensate for it. But in the case of my body, it simply isn't enough, and I usually end up fainting. Versus on a POTS day, I'll just have a racing heartbeat, and I may or may not feel faint. I do usually feel out of breath, but the odds of fainting are maybe a little lower. I'm not sure. I'm going to take that back. I was diagnosed with POTS after a very scary ER visit where the ER doctor did a poor man's tilt table test, and he said that my symptoms were consistent with POTS. Later on, I went in for a formal follow-up with cardiology, and when I did the tilt table test, the official tilt table test through them, I actually came up with orthostatic hypotension. Orthostatic hypotension, specifically your systolic, which is the top number of your blood pressure, has to go down by over 25 millimeters of mercury. Is that what the units are? It has to drop by over 25 numbers. That cardiologist didn't end up working out for me, so I had another appointment with a different cardiologist, and we had a televisit because of the quarantine. And during that televisit, he had me do a poor man's tilt table test from home. On that one, I again came up with POTS. So it looks like for me, the way that my body reacts to the tilt table test actually sort of depends on the day. I was hoping that the tilt table test would give me a more concrete answer between whether I was more POTS or more orthostatic hypotension, but it didn't do that for me. If anything, it made it a little bit more complicated. Now I'm on a heart monitor so that they can monitor every beat for a month, and hopefully that will let us know a little bit more about what my heart is doing during these episodes. I previously posted a video of me fainting, and then the second half of that video was me doing the tilt table test. Since that video was posted and it blew up relative to the rest of my channel, I have gotten other requests for doing a tilt table test on camera. I think the fact that it was bundled in with that other video made it kind of difficult to find. So I wanted to do this video so that the people who wanted to skip straight to the tilt table test, or people who were looking specifically for a tilt table test, would be able to find it more easily. If you've already seen that entire fainting video, then the footage you're going to see is going to be a repeat. And if you want to see the faints that happened right before I did this tilt table test, I recommend you go and check out that video instead of watching the rest of this one. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get to the clips. One thing, I just did a hand fart. One thing to keep in mind while you're watching this is that I had quarantine nails at the time. I had gotten my nails done before the quarantine, and they were almost all the way grown out, and most of them had fallen off, and it was this green color, just random spots on my nails, so don't judge me for that. That was a quarantine thing. Since I've been laying here for a little while, I'm going to do a little POTS test for you so you can see what happens with my change in position. First, I'm going to measure my heart rate while I'm laying here. I've been laying here maybe I don't know, just a few minutes, not very long. But I have this cool app. My phone has a heart rate monitor on the back, so it'll measure my heart rate now. My heart rate is currently 74 beats per minute. Just laying here, that's a pretty normal resting heart rate. Come with me as I stand up and measure my heart rate one more time. Quite a bit faster. 150 beats per minute. So you can see the problem here. This is absolutely not a normal response for a young and healthy person who stood up from laying down. That was a long sentence. I'm very out of breath. My heart's working very hard. My body feels like it's going for a jog. And metabolically, POTS patients do use about 3 times as much energy as a normal person. It is just about like we're jogging in place all the time if we're having an episodic day. And what's really crazy about POTS is it's actually reversible. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay back down and take my heart rate again so you can see that, yeah, it does change right back. It's very bizarre. I'll stick you right back on the tripod so you can see me. Oh, I put my phone in my pocket. That's weird. Whew. "78 beats per minute." So I'm right back to my resting heart rate. And what's kind of interesting about this is if I sit up, or at least I've noticed before, I don't know if it's repeatable, but I feel like if I sit up, I kind of end up at somewhere halfway in between. I'm tired. It happens. Yeah, 116. As you can see, it's super related to my posture. When I'm laying down, I'm in the 70s. Sitting up, I'm in the mid 110s. And then standing up, I was at 150. So, in that video, I was clearly testing positive for POTS. One thing to keep in mind with me is that I'm not fully diagnosed yet. That's why I'm doing my monitor right now, and that's why I'm still very confused about what these fainting episodes are. So please don't use any of my symptoms to diagnose yourself. I don't know whether it's common for orthostatic hypotension to come hand in hand with POTS because they're both low blood volume problems sometimes. But I'm currently working with a doctor who knows about POTS, and he's doing all these extra tests for me. I'm gonna get an ultrasound done of my heart soon, and also a treadmill ultrasound to see how it reacts when I am highly fatigued and exercising. And hopefully after that and this, we should have more answers, and I will definitely update you guys when I get there. While we're on the topic of future videos, if you don't want to miss any, make sure that you subscribe. If you tap the notification bell, click all notifications, you will get notified every time I post. But for now, just wanted to put that little asterisk on here that I'm not sure if it's normal for the blood pressure drops to happen intermittently with patients with POTS. Maybe a better way to put it is I'm not sure if the two are always mutually exclusive or if it's common for them to come hand in hand. Dysautonomia doesn't seem to be too terribly well understood, so I think everybody's kind of learning along with me. I've certainly run into too many cardiologists who have no idea what I'm talking about. And that is it. If you have any questions about anything that happened here, or if there's anything else that you want to see, please comment those things below. Give the video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and I will see you next time.